What's up, everybody? We're back on a Wednesday night. Langston, Hajivandi, talking recruiting, y'all. It's Warchant.com live recruiting show with Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. So much of this is already available over at the premium recruiting board over on Warchant.com, which is for our subscribers. And look at the screen. Look below Michael. $29.99 for 6 months of premium access to Warchant.com. You're missing out, everybody. Come join us. But you can also hang around for this show and see what we have to say on here. What else can they do, Michael, to show some support if they don't feel like clunking down $30?
Certainly hit the like button for us, and then two, definitely subscribe. I mean, we have the girls are in Oklahoma City for the World Series. We certainly have full coverage of that, and then big recruiting weekend. So always hit the like button. It's free. It's easy, guys, and certainly we ask anybody want to jump on board. There's so much good content that's flowing out daily. Whether it's visits, recruiting visits, or recruiting stuff, or team stuff, where this team's getting ready to start fall camp and stuff like that in the summer. So you want to be a part of that to see everything that's breaking and going on. So certainly hit the like button. That's the thing to do. That's the cool thing.
Man, that was a good sale right there, Michael. Usually I'm the guy doing the sales pitch, but we appreciate you doing it. Now answer all these recruiting questions that we have got coming your way.
Okay.
What's been going on here, man? I've lightly been checking out the website over the Memorial Day weekend. It seems like when it comes to elite high school prospects, which appears to be like the last piece of the puzzle in terms of if you have any doubts about Mike Norvell and what he can do at Florida State, it's, it was this and then it was that, and all these things have been checked off. And then it's like, all right, can he close on top tier 4-star, 5-star recruits? Sounds like these guys are definitely listening. I know that's not signing their names up, but they're listening. Right. They're serious. What have you been able to kind of feel out here throughout this summer sort of season?
Yeah, they've done a great job. They've got a lot of talented kids on campus in the spring, and then they kind of set up this run for they're going to have for the month of June. Obviously, have some kids this weekend, and then you have some more on the 16th weekend, and then you certainly have the final weekend on the 23rd as well. So might even have some I think there's some in between that on weekday official visits in June. So I think they've done a great job. 6 official visitors this weekend. Certainly we'll get into all those guys, but I think all these guys that they have previously visited FSU, and that's a big thing when you go into official visits. You don't want guys that are just popping in for official visit and they haven't seen haven't got a grasp of what FSU is. But I think they're on fire, and they're a hot team that a lot of people want to see, and they've done a great job of balancing the relationships, but also riding the product of what this product is. And a lot of recruits are really excited about what this product is going to be this year, and so they want to see more of it and get a more in detailed look of FSU. And certainly after these official visits, I think you're going to have some decisions coming up and probably some good news for FSU down the line.
Our guy Timmy's here, everybody. What's up, Timmy? It's been a minute. Are there going to be OVs, official visits, every weekend in June?
I mean, I will say there can be consistently, every week. They'll probably have a guy, like I said, this weekend they have 6. On June 16th weekend, I want to say they're going to have 17 official visitors, which is probably one of their biggest. Actually, that might be the 23rd. I might have that backwards, but regardless, they're going to have.
You got 17 names on here, man.
Yeah,
on the 23rd.
I think that's the 23rd. Oh, yeah, I got it mixed up. But and then you have some visitors on the 16th. I think around 5 official visitors. You have a few during the week. You have one on June 11th. I think that's Jameer Grizzly, a talented DB, and then you have a big one coming up later on June 19th. That's just after that 16th weekend. You have 5-star plus wide receiver Jeremiah Smith is coming in. And in between those times, you're going to have a lot of unofficial visitors. Unofficial visitor June 8th through the 10th is going to be JoJo Trader, a 5-star wide receiver also from Chaminade. So I think it's going to be consistently just about every weekend. I'm not going to say every weekend because certainly there's a little bit of a break between the 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 June 10th weekend. I've heard too many there, so there's not any there. But I wouldn't say every weekend, but I'd say just about every weekend. They're going to have guys here, and you want to get these done because you go into the dead period in July, so that's why FSU's really hammered out to get a lot of these guys on campus that are top tier targets. They know we're going to decide before the season starts, so I think certainly it's a big deal, and it's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of work, but also a lot of excitement, certainly for FSU, and a good chance to really build upon this top tier top 10 class, maybe even fringe top 5 class if things fall into place.
I like how we just kind of glossed over the fact that Jeremiah Smith's going to be on campus. I mean, you don't have a shot if they don't show up.
Right.
So if they show up, that's a big deal. How did this kind of come about, Michael? And how real do you think the interest is between Jeremiah and Florida State?
Oh, I think the interest is real. It's been real. I still think Georgia's more of a bigger threat because he seems to really like their quarterback commit that they just got, and there's certainly a connection there. He's visited Georgia, I think once or twice. He visited FSU as well in the spring. He didn't decide to interview with us, um, but I think the interest is real because I think when you look at a lot of his teams, he's looking at teams that are bringing in top tier star quarterbacks. Like, Florida's heavily in the mix with him, Georgia's heavily in the mix with him, and certainly Florida State is very much in the mix for them. I think the only I think if you look at all those teams, I think they have one common denominator. They're bringing in a really talented quarterback. Florida has Lagaway. Florida State obviously has Luke Kromenhoek. So and then you have some other teams in there with Ohio State that certainly always has top tier quarterbacks. So I think he's looking at these programs that are have top tier quarterbacks for the future, and I do think they're very much in there. I would probably say behind Georgia, and then I think Florida State. I'd say Florida State, Georgia, and certainly Ohio State, the team he's committed to. Those are the teams I hear the most about. I wouldn't count out Florida. I'd probably throw them as the fourth in there. So I think those are the teams, but I think they're certainly a very real a team in the mix as far as the ones he likes. He really loves what Norvell is, what he's doing at FSU, and I think he likes the fact that Norvell's different than a lot of these other coaches. He's just different. If you've seen our reports on official visits, I mean, like, Norvell is just not like your regular head coach. He does a lot of things that are unhead to head coach. Like, you don't usually see your coach in the parking lot, or even a coach that is so involved in the official visits where they do so many things. So I definitely think they're a realistic, certainly option for Jeremiah. Is there work to do? Yes, but I think they're certainly realistic. I mean, he really likes what FSU's doing.
All right. R. Wilmer asking about this recruiting calendar, which I didn't want to bring up right now, but I brought up on the screen because who knows what. But I've got a graphic, Michael. I've got us a graphic here, so let's check it on out here.
Okay.
This is the recruiting calendar for this summer. He was wondering how it's looking. We obviously know there's these built-in quiet periods and stuff. So it sounds like, looks like here, full out till August 1st, pretty much, because then that starts. It looks like a dead period followed by a quiet period.
Yeah, I think there's a dead period actually in July. I don't know why that hasn't been updated, but I
Oh,
think
because
there's
it's
some.
2022 to 23. That's why, because I have the wrong year.
Okay.
I'm not even living
Okay.
in reality right now.
Yeah, so I think just to give you a baseline, Wilmer, I think basically June is open, and then I think July, most of July, I think the end of July, there's a little open period, sometime going to August, and then after that, it's probably open period throughout the year. As far as the recruiting calendar, as far as open, again, the quiet stuff, but I'm just giving you the gist of just the simple stuff of,
Yeah, it
you're
looks like
gonna,
June, so that's accurate, Michael. Sorry, June 26th
yeah,
through July 24th. That's a dead period.
yeah,
So
yeah. So what you can see FSU might do is obviously I'll give you I've laid out the whole camp schedule, guys, so you can go to PRB. It's all in there. It tells you every day what's going to go on the camp. Obviously, the big event that everyone's circled is the June 10th event because that's elite camp that you see a lot of top prospects. And then also June 11th, you have the mega camp, which there's like 40 or 50 schools that are there. So you'll have that. And then I think what could happen in July for FSU in late July, I could see them hosting like a cookout or something like that, where they get some top recruits on campus, mostly about just the visit process and just recruiting other guys. But obviously, that's not finalized, but that's something that's I think FSU you could see FSU do later in the month of July. But for the most part, July is like shut down. It's over. It's dead period. And then once you get to August, I think you'll see a little visits, but I think most of them will wait till the season starts because now they're getting ready for their high school season. Obviously, they want to see FSU on the field play. I think you'll see several top recruits go to that big game in Orlando when FSU plays LSU. I think it'll be very well represented from in-state prospects. So that will come up, but that's kind of your gist of the calendar, Wilmer.
What world do we live in? I mean, like, so on your screen, some people might be listening to this in the podcast version, but Mike, like the red numbers are
Mm-hmm.
dead period numbers, which starts, end of June through most of July.
Right.
Those taupe tan numbers, those are quiet, and you're like, I don't want to get into quiet period, because if you saw the definition I have on the screen, the quiet period, you're not allowed to do any kind of on-campus
Right.
evaluation.
Correct.
Meanwhile, all these schools, what are they going to be doing during the quiet period? Having camps. So, what a crazy, crazy thing you have to cover, Michael, when it comes to the recruiting. But you know the best. So let's get to some of the fun stuff. Jaron Kelly's cutting right to it, man. Who's the next commit? Is Jason Zandanel still on the clock?
Yeah, I still side with Jason Zandamela for me, July 6th. Obviously, I did a story on him, got up with him earlier last week, and I feel very good about his recruitment. Now, some stuff could change over the weekend with some of these visits. They're hosting some guys that could change that, but I would say for right now, I'm going to stick with Jason. Jason will be the guy that I'm targeting that I think would be the next guy to jump on board.
All right, our guy's screen pass. We don't need wide receivers, 3 exclamation marks. We need tackles and guards and linebackers. So what about tackles and other linebackers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's pushing as hard for tackles, although there's a few out there that they're very involved with. I think On3 had a story today about Brandon Brown, the number one offensive tackle in the country. He's likely going to officially visit FSU. They said, hey, watch out for FSU, even though Oregon's the team probably to beat, but FSU's a factor there. So I think there's several guys that I think they want like 1 or 2 tackles. I've gone through a lot of them as far as who are the main guys, but overall, I think the other positions are bigger, like linebackers. I think that's more significant. And to segue into that, you obviously host one of your top tier guys this weekend, and for official visit, and Edwin Spillman. They've done a great job with the relationships and what he's seeing, and the kind of the usage of how he'd be utilized, similar to kind of what they do with Kalen DeLoach in this group and as far as the linebacker position. So I think they're really high on this kid, and certainly there's heavy interest. Although that's good news, the bad news is they're trailing Tennessee coming in this. So, but they get the first official visit, so FSU gets a chance to knock it out of the park. And certainly, I think there needs to be more. You want to see more activity and more top guys, officially visiting at this position. I'm not seeing as much of that compared to other positions. So it's a position that certainly it is the weak point as far as what I see, through this class. So it's certainly an area that they have to certainly get more guys and get more options on the table as far as on the board. Because I think Spillman, like I said, is probably the best option they have so far. So yeah, there's work to do there, but overall, I think when you look at this linebacker group and the guys you're bringing in like Blake Nicholson, I'm very high on Omar Graham, but you need more top tier guys that are going to help you immediately. But certainly if you could pull Spillman, that would be a great start. But I think it's going to certainly I think this board needs to be expanded, and I think it will be expanded as we go through the summer. But yeah, I would like to see a little more from the linebacker recruiting there.
I wonder, like, if you went and looked back 20 years ago at, like, the Rivals 100 back then when we were over at Rivals, and you look at it now, like, how often are linebackers like within the top 100 recruits? I just feel, I don't even know if that's. I know there are elite guys out there, but I
Right,
don't know how many
right.
there are, and they seem to be kind of a dwindling resource. And that's why it's all about defensive ends, edge guys, which they seem to be doing
Yeah,
really good.
and it's tough for FSU because if you look at their linebackers, they use backers, DBs more than they do like the linebackers all the time. Like
That's
most of
four
the
two
time they
five
use
days,
two.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time they use two. So that's not easy sell. But when what you do is a position the way you use those two and kind of really expand on that, and that's what kind of FSU is selling. And certainly they have a guy that's done a great job with the linebackers and Randy Shannon. I'm very pleased with what I've seen. The development with those guys, but yeah, to your point, yeah, it's tough because there's not a lot of top tier guys every year, for sure. There's a handful, and you try to get in there and get your guys, but it's certainly a position I think they can improve on as far as options and where they sit with those players.
Josh Johnson, do you think we can land both Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader?
I think they can land Trader. I think Smith's going to take some work, but I think with Trader, I think that's more. I mean, I wouldn't count out Ohio State with Trader either, but I think that's more of a Miami FSU battle. I think it's close, and some people from the FSU side feel like they hold the slight edge. So that's kind of the feedback I get on that. And JoJo switches back and forth from people I talk to that have intel in South Florida about who he likes the best and stuff like that. But I think Smith would take a little. That's going to take a little more, and you have a lot more heavy competition. You're talking about Georgia's, the Floridas, certainly Ohio State, who does a great job with receivers. So I think Trader is more likely, but I think getting both of them, I think, that's for really impossible for me to say without him starting his official visits. But I would say I do think they have a shot with Bo, but I think they have a real legit shot with Trader. If I'm going on what I know today, as of Wednesday, May 31st. I mean, I have to go what I know. So right now, I would lean towards Trader being, likely. It's a
Ooh.
possibility where
Oh,
I think Smith's going to take some. I have to see what I got to see what happens from the official visit when he official visits FSU on that June 19th. But I think Trader's definitely a realistic shot.
if they got both Smith and Trader, top 2 class in the nation.
Yeah, that'd be a top. That's going to be a top 3 class if you do that. I mean, I feel confident with that, and that would be a major recruiting shift to the way recruits view FSU if you get those guys because you're going against the big boys, and I think it would say a lot about where recruits feel Norvell's going. Even if you get one of them, I think it signifies that. But certainly, if you get both of those guys, that would be ridiculous, and that obviously is still it's going to be really hard to do that. But yeah, it would definitely put them in the top 3, top 2.
Garrett S. wondering, are we after Sammy Brown or is he a Georgia lock?
I think it's Georgia or Clemson with him. I don't think FSU has much of a shot at all, if any. Probably say none, like less than 1%. Like there's very little shot. I think FSU certainly showed interest. They wanted him, but he didn't reciprocate that interest. He hasn't visited. He hasn't shown any interest. I know he's a popular name for people to mention because he's a great player, very talented linebacker, but I have never heard FSU being any kind of factor in that recruitment.
Well, they don't all have happy endings, kids. They all don't have happy endings. Jaron's back. Legitimate shot with KJ Bolden. He seems to be leaning towards a two-time defending national champions in his home state. God forbid.
He is leaning towards Georgia, but I don't think it's as like locked down as it was. Now that doesn't mean that I think FSU is going to land him. I still think it's likely, he goes to Georgia, but I think it's much more open process for him. And I think FSU will get an official visit. I think On3 also did an article on him of how he really is looking for a great place. He wants to make sure of all this stuff, and that he wants to visit FSU for a game, for official visit when he takes the official visit. So I do think they have a shot. I do think they're probably in his top three, top three, top four range. But I think certainly Georgia for me would be the leader. I think Ohio State's another one. His brother, I think, works at Ohio State, so that's another thing. And then I would have FSU along with some other teams like Auburn. I think FSU's right there with them, but I think they're certainly very much in the picture. And again, not to say I'm repetitive, but we got to go through these official visits, guys, before I really can dive in and pick apart, the pecking order of all these teams. But as of now, that's where I feel things sit with KJ. But yeah, they're definitely a possibility. I see a dream school of his, but also he really likes what they do in their secondary with the safeties. And I think the longer it goes on with KJ, the better, because the product is going to show for FSU, and I think that really benefits FSU the longer it goes where he can see that product. He knows what Georgia is. Georgia's really good, two-time defending champs. They're really good. Okay, he likes Auburn. What if Auburn stinks on the field? And then FSU does what they did last year. That's certainly going to boost FSU up. So I think the longer it goes on, the more it helps, because there's already a personal attachment to FSU with his dream school. He loves it. But you add into product attachment, and then you add in the atmosphere and things he likes. I think there's certainly a good shot. I'm not going to say a great shot. I'd say a good shot that if FSU does everything and things fall in the right way, they can make a run and certainly push Georgia for his services.
What's with all this wide receiver video, man? I thought we were recruiting as a DB.
He
Somebody
does
asked us this.
he does everything.
Yeah. Somebody asked us this on the podcast, Michael, and to your point about, there's being familiar with the program, but then there's product on the field sort of
Right.
performance.
Right.
Like Florida State goes 4-0, say they run the table in the month of September.
Right.
Man, that they could possibly be the number one team in the entire nation. Now, listen, a lot of these recruitments are figured out before September and October roll around. But I mean, it's something to kind of think about. To your point, man, if Florida State's able to go out there, beat LSU, beat Clemson, you're 4-0, and you're possibly the number one team in the nation. Maybe that makes spurning Georgia or Ohio State, if you're a wide receiver, seem not that crazy anymore.
Yeah, and thing is, with a lot of these kids, like sometimes they want to do something different. And so if they see somebody like an FSU that goes 4-0 and really is setting the tone of a product, and especially if that's your dream school, and if their product matches what you're looking for and the development of what you're seeing at your position is what you're looking for, it's not impossible for it to happen. So certainly, but you can't get them unless they're not on campus. And certainly it's big news that FSU is going to get official visit from him. But I think you have a good point there that the product on the field of what you do only enhances your chances, because we know when FSU, we know it's centrally located in Florida. Kids love it. It's still a national team that everyone talks about. Geographically, it's very good. I think when recruits visit, they're blown away. They love everything. And then when you start getting the product, that gives you a different niche, and you get to a different level. So I think the longer a lot of these recruitments go, I think it benefits FSU because of what is expected FSU to do this year, and they still have to produce, but it certainly helps.
We'll say that Florida State's like centrally located in the southeast.
Centrally located in Florida, somewhat. Pretty well. I mean, it's. I guess Tampa. I guess Tampa's centrally located, so I guess. But capital city, it's a good location in the state that kids love. So that was kind of the point.
I was going to go to our guy Kyle. But when you do this sort of stuff, you jump to the front.
Oh my
Let's go, James B. My man. Let's go.
God.
Fantastic. Welcome to the show.
Dollar bills, y'all.
What? James B. He's a pillar.
He's dropping
Mr.
it.
Pensacola. Mr. Pensacola.
But James, I appreciate that. Thanks for so much. I'll answer your question in a minute. By the way, I did have lunch with Ray, who was in town over there at Corner Pocket. So
dude, he was really here?
Yeah, he was here. I had lunch
No!
with him.
Dude,
he bought me wings. By the way, the wings were good, Ray. I appreciate it, man. Phenomenal, man. Appreciate all. Eric Angel was there, and we had a good time. Had a good time talking with those guys.
I can't believe it, man. He told us, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm at Corner Pocket." We're like, "Yeah, whatever. Yeah, right." He didn't. I'm just going to read the question, and then you answer it, and I'm going to go heel somehow.
Okay.
James V says, "Hello, fellas. Michael just watched the On3 interview with Brandon Baker. He was asked who the dark horse in his recruiting is. He said Florida State and Tennessee, but he smiled big when asked about Alex Atkins. What do you think?"
Who doesn't? Like who doesn't smile when they're around Atkins? That doesn't surprise me. I mean, you could tell when he visited in the spring, there was a immediate connection. There was something about that bond with Atkins that he really loved. I think it's big. I mean, I think it's what you wanted coming out of that visit, because you want to get an official visit, but you want to make a first impression that's big. And I think FSU is very much in that picture. Probably more so than I originally thought they would be. I thought the spring visit was good, but you really don't know in these visits of how impactful they are until maybe weeks and months after it. But I think it's a positive. It certainly doesn't hurt James. And like I said, Oregon's still my favorite as far as in that race. But I think FSU is definitely trending up. Based on how that visit went, and I felt it was really good. So I'm not really too surprised that Brandon had very positive things to say about Atkins, or feelings about what Atkins does. And why wouldn't you when you look at what the development is? I mean, what he's done with this offensive line is absolutely incredible. And what he does with tackles, guards, centers, doesn't matter what position it is on the offensive line. He's a guy that these guys want to be around, and he's a very likable guy. When you're around this guy, even as a media person, I love being around Alex. Alex gets you fired up just because he's very easy to be around. He's a guy you consistently want to be around because he's so fun. But he's also, when it's business time, he gets down to it. But he's just a guy that's is like a magnet of wanting to be around those type of personalities. And that's why recruits like him so much, but also because he's one heck of an offensive line coach, and he really knows his stuff, and he has shown that with development. So that's kind of my thoughts on Mr. Baker there.
Man, his film looks really,
it's phenomenal.
really flipping good, man. Let's get him, Alex. Speaking of Ray, Ray's here. Hey, what? Let's go, Ray. Ray, dude, you gotta follow up and let us know. But Michael, I'm glad you were there to hang out with him. He's throwing $100 at us. Hey, Michael, great to see you at Corner Pocket with Eric Angel. It was a good time. What are the chances that Luke Kromenhoek gets to 5 stars? Keep being the best. Go Noles. Love you, Ray, by the way. Love you, Ray. Love you,
Ray, I loved it. And Ray got to see how I feel about Miami fans, so that was fun.
Nice.
But yeah, I think there's a 50-50 shot on that, Ray. I mean, he's already moved up to, I think, the top 50 range. Certainly, I think this is a big upcoming event for him with the Elite 11 thing coming up. He told me he's also going to be at the June 10th Elite Camp. So I think, but the Elite 11, I think, is going to kind of the first test in there. And certainly, you watch this kid. I mean, he has that it factor when he's playing quarterback. I mean, he can run, he can throw, and his arm talent is probably the best I've seen since probably Jameis. As far as the way he can make just about every throw that you would look for. Now I'm not comparing to James. I'm just saying the arm talent is so good of the amount of throws that he can make. This is probably one of my favorites is when he gets hit and he still hits the guy in the corner of the end zone. But I just think his stock is rising big time. Even the guys that saw him, I think at the On Three event they're doing this weekend, I think the Elite Series, they're like, this guy's one of the most impressive looking off the hoof when you look at him. His height, weight, his body frame, and just. And then when you pop in the film, it really explodes at you. So yeah, I think Ray, there's a real shot that he could move up there. Now, obviously, you need a good season. Needs to continue to play good when he plays top competition, and then go from there. But when you're in the top 50, I think, and you keep rising, I would say there's certainly a legit chance that you could see him as a 5-star. I think it's certainly a possibility. I would say 50-50 either way, but either way, I think it's going to be he's a top 50 guy that certainly FSU was on when he was only a 3-star. So FSU has a really good evaluation eye for talent, and they got on him early, and it's a good thing because they probably wouldn't have gotten if they didn't. So I think they did a great job of seeing him early, and certainly 5 stars not impossible for it to happen.
Yeah, a story up on our screen here. Again, some folks might be listening just in the podcast feed, but Charles Power, the director of scouting for On Three, says that Luke probably has the most physical upside, along with DJ Lagway, the most physical upside of these top 100 blue chip quarterbacks. So you ain't wrong, Michael. You ain't wrong.
I love him. I mean, and he's a great kid, and he's a great recruiter too. Like, that's the thing I don't think he gets enough credit for is his ability to recruit other guys. Like, where it's one thing being a really good, great player, but how do guys react to you and connect with you? And I think with him, and I think that's one of the reasons why they were able to get Jeremiah Smith and these guys like JoJo Trader on campus. Like, he's very likable. Like, he's a very likable guy that kids want to be around. That he just there's a comfort feeling when you're around him, whether you're on a visit or you're just around in 7-on-7. He's a guy that recruits like and want to be around.
Ray, I'm sorry, man. I can't believe I didn't. I can't believe I missed it at the corner pocket, man. Corey and I will repent somehow. First 17 beers are on us in Orlando, man. Hope we see you out there, man. Thank you, Ray. You're the man. You as well, James B. Love it, man. Pillars for a reason.
Awesome.
Let's get to our guy, Kyle. Let's get to our guy, Kyle. Michael, what do you gather the coaching staff views as the number one position of need for 2024, or do they focus on individuals rather than position groups?
I mean, I think they have some positions that they want to address. Like, certainly there's positions like linebacker. You want to address the depth there, and I think there's other positions where center, they really want 2 in this class. They feel like they really need centers, from what I can gather. And then you just want to. I think the other ones are just the best of the positions, and then really it's kind of a mixture of both. Get down where you want the positions, to get the talent and the depth that you're looking for, but also it has to be the guy. It has to be the prospect. You evaluate them individually. Sure, they have. I think they want linebackers. I think certainly they've shown they want receivers because they know a lot of these guys are going to leave. And I think a lot of people are like, we don't need receivers. Like, yeah, but there's a good chance you lose Johnny Wilson. Keon has a good year. He's gone. And you could have several guys leave. So you have to prepare for what could not be there. So I think that's another position they're heavily looking at. But I think for me, defensive line, certainly the linebacker position are 2 places that I think FSU's focused a lot of the attention on.
All right. Yeah, we've passed the bottom of the hour. Let's pause briefly. If you get that thumbs up, everybody, we really would appreciate it. Just tap on it, click on it. You don't have to click on it and click off of it and click back on just once. Just make sure it's pointing up and it's lit up. We'd appreciate it. Lets everybody know that Michael's out here doing the Lord's work, giving out information everybody wants and knows and needs when it comes to Florida State. Let's go back to Josh Johnson. I remember when you mentioned Ellis Robinson. Any updates on Ellis Robinson?
I think that's Elias Robinson. He's I think he's kind of a buck, kind of a slash between a defensive end and linebacker, 4-star. He narrowed his list down, Josh, and FSU wasn't in it. I have not heard anything about visiting again. I might have somebody mixed up though. I might have guys mixed up.
Well,
Might be another guy.
there is an Ellis Robinson. There's
Okay.
also an Elias Rudolph.
Okay, that's where I got mixed. Okay, Ellis Robinson. Yeah, he's a guy they are staying in touch with. He wants to visit FSU. I think it's kind of a wait and see of if an official visit gets set up. If I'm not mistaken, he's a DB, a top B. I think he's committed to Georgia as well. So I think he's a guy they're active with, but so far the official visit hasn't been finalized yet. But it's definitely a place that I think he will visit. I still think Georgia's probably the favorite to retain him, but certainly a guy that FSU's active with. Sorry guys, I got kind of mixed up there, but Elias Rudolph was the guy I was talking about, but FSU wasn't mentioned in his top group. So just to clear that up for anybody that's confused, but I think with Ellis Robinson, yeah, they're certainly in the picture. That's a guy they went to visit. They know they're trying to get on campus for an official visit, but for now they're still working on that to finalize a date. But it seems like the interest is mutual that he wants to take an official visit. So it seems likely that official visit is going to happen.
Wow, look at this. Like 40 minutes into the show. No one's asked about the portal, Michael. What's going on in the portal, man? Are they and Matt Lasser, by the way, Matt Lasser's in the comment section. Matt, feel free to he answered a question earlier, or he added some more context. Feel free to throw in your 2 cents in, Matt, as well. Like, are we fine at safety? Like, I'm not panicking. I don't want to sound rude, but like, are we fine at safety? Like, what's going on in the portal, Michael? Do you think it's still open if you're already in there, or if you're a grad transfer, you can enter. They're obviously monitoring things. How closely do you think they are monitoring the transfer portal?
Well, I think they're monitoring it. I don't think there's any major activity yet. Obviously, they were going to host Artavius Lane, who was from Georgia Southern, but was committed to North Carolina. He that visit got called off. From what I heard, Lane was afraid he might lose his spot. He's committed to North Carolina, so there was some concern about that, which tells you that FSU wasn't really pushing that hard if he was concerned by that. But I think really right now they're just looking for a guy that fits everything they're looking for. Just they want a for sure guy. So if that guy's not there, they're fine walking away. I think they feel good about the players they have in their room. I don't think there's so much concern with that position within FSU as it is, I guess, from me or maybe you, of what they could use as far as having a productive, NFL type of player that could come in there and you can insert. But I think they feel comfortable with their room, but and they're not going to just take anybody. So I think they're just still studying and they're still looking, but I don't think they're just going to jump on anybody.
All right, there we go. We'll go to Weldon Taylor. Shout out Weldon Taylor, king of the car selfie. Strong. Do you think Charles Lester is still a strong FSU lean?
I do, Weldon. I feel very good about that recruitment. I know some people get worried because Georgia has the last official visit. I'm not that concerned with that, and I'll tell you why. First, if FSU wants Charles on campus, even after that Georgia visit, they're going to find a way to get him there once that visit wraps up. But two, I just don't think. I think they feel very good about what they've done positioning wise and stuff like that. Be honest, I this might sound silly. I'm more concerned about the Colorado aspect of Charles Lester than I am Georgia or the Alabamas, because he's visited Georgia and Alabama's. They've tried whatever. We've seen what Dion can do with defensive backs. Dion's played the position, so you never know how if he can certainly make an impact. Now don't get that confused. I feel very good about FSU's chances. For those that don't know, Charles did transfer to Venice High School from Sarasota Rearview. Venice is one of the top teams in the states. That's not like shocking because of kids want to play for the best of the best, and certainly Venice is that every year. But yeah, I feel good about FSU and where they sit with Charles, and I wouldn't be surprised. Charles takes his official visit on the 16th. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Luke Kromenhoek and Cam Davis there for that visit, just to make him feel comfortable. I would not be surprised with that. They both really recruited him extremely hard, and I think things have looked and trending pretty darn well for Charles. I don't have any change as far as how I feel about Lester.
Somebody asked earlier, I think Jaron, like, who's the next to commit? If you had to have like a top 3, would Lester be on that?
He would be on there because I
Okay.
think he's going to commit after he takes in his official visits and stuff like that. But I think he would certainly be in that top 3. I'm trying to think of others that are making the decisions. I mean,
Well,
I'd
they'll give it all. They'll give it all away for free,
okay.
Michael. They'll
Let's
give it
not
all
get
away
a
for free,
well.
Michael.
I told people I'm going to put together a list of guys that I think could pop in June or in July. So I'll probably do that, after either during the weekend or after that weekend. I'll kind of go in detail about these decisions that are coming up in July. But definitely, Lester and Zandamello will be in there.
Samurai Knoll. Maybe sounds dumb, but how do these guys get stars? If one evaluator gives them 4 and another 5, is it a petition process to get the 5th? Walk us through, Michael, how some of the sausage is made when it comes
Well,
to stars.
I'm very experienced in this area because I used to do it when I ran my own site on Florida Varsity. So I did a lot of my own rankings. I think the stars are based on, first off, film, in-person live evaluations, and then also just where you project these guys going into college. Who projects the best. So there could be a guy that's maybe skill wise and stat wise he's putting up better stats, but maybe he doesn't project as well as these other guys, and that's why you see a lot of these guys, they're projected like 5 stars because maybe they're not tearing it up or tearing up as quite as much as another guy, but their projection to the next level where they add weight, add strength, they add technique, they're going to be so good. But that's kind of how the process goes as far as the valuations and what they look for. Obviously, measurables is a big deal, speed, skill, all that stuff. You look at those things, but film and in-person evaluations is a big deal when you're doing these star rankings.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that, man. I always like some of that insight. Sometimes we take
Yep.
some of this stuff for granted. Tom Kirkpatrick out on the boat without everybody freaking out. In recruiting, I hear a lot of our coaches' names, except I don't hear a lot from Odell. Or is he more of a behind-the-scenes guy?
I think he's very involved, Tom. I mean, I think you don't hear as much because I haven't really. It's one of those positions, like I said, with a linebacker. There's not a ton of targets. There's some, but I think more of these positions, Tom, have more guys. But if you watch the 2025 guys that visit in the spring, the 2024, some of the 2024 guys, certainly Odell's mentioned quite frequently. Even guys that are not in his position, Odell's very active. I think he's not a guy that's like mentioned all the time, but he's certainly a guy that's it's pretty popular with recruits. I wouldn't like read a lot into that. I think it's just one, there needs to be more options as far as what the DT room is going to be as far as recruiting in 2024, and then 2, guys visiting. But once these guys start officially visiting on the defensive tackle position, I think you'll hear a lot more about Odell, Tom. But I think he's certainly very active when it comes to recruiting. But that's kind of my explanation of kind of why you haven't heard as much about Odell.
See, the thumbs up really works because we always, like, near the halfway point of the show, we ask you guys to hit the thumbs up again. And then in my mind's eye, I'm like, all right, we're halfway done. I can go make dinner. But you guys keep hitting that like button, and everybody's like, oh, there's something going on. Then everybody comes in here, and everybody starts asking questions. So business picking up here, Michael.
Love it.
Cool Breeze, what schools are the biggest competition for safety Ricardo Jones? What are the chances he ends up in Tallahassee?
Yeah, Ricardo's from Northside High School, Warner Robins, Georgia. He's a guy that visited early in the spring. Was really impressed when he was around Norvell. As people can see, FSU's moved up that charts. Now they're at the top as far as I guess whatever credentials they do to do the RPM. I think most of that's fans and such. But yeah, there's a very real shot. He's officially visiting FSU as well in June. I think he's part of that June 23rd weekend. As far as his official visit, like him a lot. He's probably the top safety that they want. He's very coveted. I would say FSU, Auburn have been the teams I've heard the most frequent about when it comes to this kid because he's really big on relationships, and I think both schools have done an incredible job, striking that relationship and having it resonate with him, and also the fit of what they're doing and then their program as far as the defensive back position that he really likes. But certainly to me, the top safety on the board, and certainly FSU and Auburn are the teams that I've heard the most about. There's more, and he's going to take a lot of official visits, but that official visit to FSU is going to be a major point in his recruitment. That's the point where I felt like Auburn's been the leader, and I probably still feel that way, but I think it's close. But this is FSU's chance to really shoot their way past them and get up there and make their move. This is the time FSU wants to make that move. Certainly, there's a lot of ties in the Georgia area with this coaching staff. Alex Atkins has a lot of ties there in Georgia. I think several of the coaches they have on their staff are very good in the state of Georgia. So they put a lot of time into Ricardo, but definitely they are trending up. But on that 23rd weekend, that's going to be the weekend they really need to put that surge in.
Thanks for the question, Cool Breeze. Chris Clayton, does Florida State take James Madison, JoJo Trader, and Jeremiah Smith if they all want in?
I think they would. If that I know that equals 6 receivers, guys, and it's a lot, but you're not turning down elite competition or elite players. And I think FSU views all 3 of those guys as elite. We know about Trader and Smith. I've talked about them, earlier in this this recruiting chat, and I think they're phenomenal. I think they're very high on James Madison because there's not too many receivers that they have that are like him. But yeah, I definitely think they would take him. And before we get to the next question, guys, because I don't want to leave it out. I know we're getting near the 75% of the chat, but want to kind of break down a little bit. The official visit weekend coming up. Want to let you know who's coming in. Here's some of the guys that are coming in, and I'll cover them. I'm not going to say I cover everything because I'm just going to tell you, brief things on them because my preview will kind of it's already up on the front page. People can read it. It's right on the front page of Warchant. You can kind of get your feelings. But first off, you have running back Christian Clark. He's coming in for official visit. He's a guy that visited in the spring. I mentioned several times his uncle was Kenny Felder, who played baseball at FSU. His mom is also an alum of FSU, but they currently trail Texas. I think Texas, if I was picking a team today, it would be Texas. So certainly they have some work to do there. I mentioned the 4-star linebacker Edmund Spillman. That's a guy that's coming in this weekend. Edmund Spillman, he's a guy they visit in the spring. They like a lot. He's their top target at the linebacker position. FSU gets first crack at him. I've talked about this several times too, setting the bar of these official visits. And certainly there's a major opportunity for FSU to really make a big push as far as where they sit with Spillman. I personally currently would give the Vols the edge, but I think that could change certainly throughout the weekend. Next, 4-star DB and probably one of the top cornerbacks on their board is Wardell Mack. He was a heavy LSU lean, I would say, before this process started. Then FSU got him on the spring visit. Florida also got him in. Florida State made a major push. I think Sam Spiegelman did a piece on FSU, just how impressed he was, and he's certainly coming back for an official visit this weekend. So I think this is a big deal. He really likes Patrick Surtain. Obviously, Patrick's from New Orleans. That's where he was born. And then you certainly have David Johnson, who's also from Louisiana. And then you have all these Louisiana players on FSU's team. So that certainly should be a positive as far as making this a very comfortable and exciting official visit weekend. I think FSU is very much in the picture there. So that's certainly a guy to watch. And then you have a couple more DBs that are coming in. Jaquavius Marshall is one that's coming in this weekend. He's been a guy that they offered later in the spring. FSU's been heavily in the picture. FSU leads the RPM. I think if they push, I'd like their chances to pull that one off. I'd like him more as a safety. I think that's where FSU's recruiting him, 6'4" guy. Don't have too many 6'4" safeties. So I think that visit of how much a priority is kind of what I'm going to be looking for on this weekend. And then probably one of the last official visitors that were set up was Red Morgan. He's from Phoenix City, Alabama. He's a guy they offered, I want to say in May, or not May, but on an official visit this spring. They later set up an official visit after that official offer was made, and he's coming as well this weekend. That's another safety that's coming in. So it's obviously they're attacking this safety position, and I'm trying to make sure I don't draw a blank. I'm missing one more, Aslan.
Nair Daniels.
That's it. Nair Daniels, offensive lineman, the lone offensive lineman in this class. Penn State. I hear Penn State FSU battle lately. I think Texas is also in the picture, but I think more so with FSU. Another guy that really connects with Atkins very well. Interior guy. They do want interior guys. That's a big thing they want in this class. Tackles, probably the third best, because centers is probably the number one thing that they want. But Daniels visited a couple times in the spring. Now he's coming in for an official visit. I think FSU's a major factor. I think they're right there with Penn State, but they certainly need to make a massive impression this weekend. So 6 official visitors, could be some unofficial visitors. We'll see. I'm waiting on some calls. I'm finishing that, but I want to kind of get to these official visitors so we don't miss them by the end of the show. But with that said, just resume with the questions.
Yeah, I don't think you need a subscription for this. It's over at it's part of the On3 network, man. Just how great they got everything covered. When you go to the recruiting tab, you can find
Right.
visits, and then I mean they're boom, they're all clustered up here by date. So as you see, there's a whole bunch in June, and as Michael talked about earlier in this hour, there's that dead period for most of July. So here are your guys this week.
Yeah, and if you click on the little arrow on each weekend, Aslan can just click on one of them for the official visits. It is a great graphic. I love the graphics of tells you one if it's an official visit or if it's unofficial. It's really put out and where you can see it good. So I love the graphics that On3's added with these official visits. They look great. But yeah, you can follow all that, and all that stuff is linked on the PRB. I got it all on there, guys. So whatever one you want to know about as far as who's visiting when, we've got them all updated. But 6 official visitors this weekend.
All right, let's wrap it up here. Last one. Seminole Wind, 8792. Just curious, what do recruits do on campus when they take these multiple visits? I guess they don't knock everything out in one trip.
No, you're never going to knock everything out in one trip because there's so much stuff to go over. I mean, a lot of the visits is kind of different of one visit it will be more about being around the players and the team, and then the other visits like one seeing the city but also seeing insides of the program. I think you're always going to get on every visit, you're going to get kind of the stuff of how guys fit in the field. But I think some of these visits is more about more personal time with the players. You obviously don't get there. It's hard to get in the academic stuff. So a lot of that's saved for the official visits, although Mike does have a very detailed presentation for almost all the time when they have kids on campus for academics, but you get a more personal side of it. There's just so much to see on these visits. There's no way. And two, as my contact would tell me most of the time with FSU, you always want to give them something to wanting them to come back. You don't want to give them everything and then you don't have anything different the following time. So they don't just give them everything. A lot of it's a lot of personal time, especially with the way FSU does it. That they want to get a lot of these, make all these visits really personal, but also they don't want to feel like make these kids feel like there's stress involved with the visits. They want or the decisions. They want to make it about what they're looking for, and then FSU is not afraid to tell them, like, look, this is what we're looking for. If you're not about that, then this ain't the place. So they're very direct, they're genuine, but they also going to make it fun. But they definitely always leave stuff out that they don't do, just so you see these multiple visits. That's why it happens. Seminole when they like to, you want them to come back. You want to keep giving them a reason to wanting more. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of things that they can do differently on each visit.
I lied. Two more. Obviously, James B is a pillar. There's no such thing as last call when you're a pillar. Everybody, how many classes before we give Sertan, or how many classes do we give Sertan before we start making judgments on his recruiting prowess?
Well, I think you always do that, even the first year. So we'll see what guys he pulls this year. But I guess to make a full evaluation, James, for me, it would be like 2 classes. You got this, get the second class. Could they get settled in with the players? He knows he's got the guys he's looking for. Kids know what his tendencies are, what he looks for, and what's important to him. So I think it's hard for the first year. So I'd say second year, but for me, I think that's when you can really start breaking down just how great a recruiter he is. But I think he's going to be more than fine. He's certainly done a great job of getting some really good elite corners on campus.
All right. And speaking of, I don't know, would we call him elite? Jamari Howard. Josh
Yeah.
Johnson was wondering, Jamari Howard, question mark.
Yeah, that's still one they're very active with. I expect an official visit to be set up maybe in a few weeks with Jamari. This guy, they're very active. They want him. Florida wants him as well. That's the team I hear a lot about, along with FSU. So they're certainly pushing for him. Those two teams are the ones I hear the most when it comes to, a new home for Jamari. I think official visits will be eventually set up to both of those schools, but yeah, they're still pretty active there.
All right. Shout out to our guy Josiah in the back for fielding these questions and stuff, man. We certainly appreciate it. Shout out to our pillars, James B and Ray, for being so flipping generous, man. It's unbelievable, man. We appreciate the heck out of you guys.
Yeah.
Mike, you talked about it. Several guys on campus for official visits. You and Matt have got us covered. What should folks look forward to over on Warchant.com before these elite prospects show up?
Yeah, we'll have certainly plenty of coverage on Friday. They arrive, so we'll be there when they arrive. We'll certainly give everyone any notes that we have, or always have pictures as far as the guys arriving, who's with them, stuff like that. We'll have that, and then on Friday and Saturday, I'll have nuggets on how the visits are going. I'll check in with my intel, make some calls, and see kind of how these visits are trending. I'll have that on Friday and Saturday, and then on the Sunday we'll have a wrap with all 6 of these official visits. We hope to get up with all of them, and we'll certainly break down anything that's going on when it comes to these visits, and then after that, I'll probably have another 10 to watch. Maybe before the camp, or might be after it. But then we have the camp season on the 7th. The camp season starts. Got a full schedule of the camps. What everything's going to be as far as the schedule. It starts June 7th with a big man camp and the 7-on-7, and then it ends around the I want to say the 21st. But you'll have camps every other day, so that's what we have coming up. We're going to be very busy in June. Hope maybe we'll see Aslan out there for the camps. So maybe we'll see. We'll see.
Hot out
But
there.
yeah, but a lot of great times, a lot of exciting stuff coming up. But it starts this weekend. All eyes are focused on these official visitors, and certainly if there's any other visitor, it's an unofficial visitor. I'll either myself, or Matt will chime in. And by the way, I haven't even had a chance to even talk about Matt. Matt's done a great job as far as the updates, checking up on a lot of these guys. He's he's the first guy to report on Red Morgan setting up an official visit with FSU. He nailed it. So Matt's been on this stuff. Just want to want everyone to give a lot of praise to him because he's done a lot of grind work behind the scenes. There he is right there, official visit time. Matt's ready to roll, but just want to give him some praise of our new addition on our staff. And I couldn't be more excited about the work that Matt's doing. So that's what we have coming up. So let's get it going.
That's right. For Michael, I'm Aslan, and for Josiah as well. Thanks for watching this edition of the Warchant.com live recruiting show. Stay connected to Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles